Hi, Budget Girl here again. In the last video, I talked about how I break down my budget per line item, but I forgot to talk about some of the overarching ways that I whittle my budget down before I even spend any of it so that I can save more money. My line items here total to $1,473. $1,473. That is the minimum that I get after tax per paycheck. That's 2 40-hour weeks. I did the math off of a paycheck once. It doesn't include any overtime. It doesn't include any reimbursed expenses like gas, because I do get reimbursed gas through my work. As a reporter, I have to drive a lot. So I take every paycheck, and I usually get an hour or two of overtime, maybe a little more if we're working on a big project or something that week. But I don't count that into my budget, because then if there were a 2-week period where I didn't get any overtime, I would have all sorts of expenses that I had budgeted for that I then couldn't afford. So $1,473 is my magic number. When I get a paycheck, this little green box here shows all of my income. So when I get a paycheck in, I put that number here, and I subtract, well, I divide 1473 by 2, and then take this number and subtract that from that, which gives me how much overtime I received for the previous 2 weeks. If you take it off of your paycheck, usually in that column, it's not deducted from taxes yet. So I do this. And so for this first 2 weeks of the month, I had $65.98 of overtime. We were working on a really big project, and I got to pull some extra money in. Now, I don't get to spend that. That's a rule. No spending any overtime. Unless, well, sometimes it happens where an unforeseen expense will come up. Say I have to go to the dentist, or something I should have budgeted for but didn't, and instead of stealing from the next month's budget or dipping into my emergency fund, I will steal from that overtime, but I shouldn't. I shouldn't do that. I don't do that. I can't do, but I shouldn't. And that overtime, at the end of the month, I total it up, and I don't spend it, but that goes alongside any money I didn't spend from the regular categories, and that goes as an extra payment to what I'm saving for now, which is my new car. So last month, I got to put about $30 at the end of the month to my new car. My light bill didn't come to as much as I thought it was going to, and I had a little bit of overtime, so $30 isn't much, but an extra $30 a month instead of $180, that's $210. And it looks like this month I'll have a little more as long as I don't touch it. So $65 overtime, plus whatever I get for the next 2 weeks paycheck overtime, plus anything I didn't spend in the normal line budget. That adds up to a chunk of change sometimes, which is how I have been able to save almost $2,000 for my car since just the beginning of this year. I'm going to let that sink in. I make $1,473 a month. It's April, and by doing $180 a month savings, plus putting anything towards it that is outside of the line budget, and any extra income I have, and anything I didn't spend, I have saved $2,000 towards my new car. How exciting is that? Which also means once I start putting this towards my student loans, my savings, I'm going to wipe them out faster than I expect to. Hopefully, as long as I'm really, really diligent about not spending that extra money. If you want to make a budget, it doesn't have to be like this. There are all sorts of websites online that track your spending for you. Say if you always use a debit card, mint.com is a website that I use, but not for budgeting. I just like having all my all the amounts and all my accounts in the same place. They will do budget tracking if you enable them, but the problem I had with it was sometimes I go somewhere and spend money in multiple categories, like Walmart. So I may spend $40 in groceries and then spend $15 getting dog food. And those are different budgetary items on my broken down line budget, but I can't split that up in it, which is another reason why I use my Google Doc Excel spreadsheet, because I can split a receipt into multiple categories, which I like to do. Now, when I started this budget, I based it loosely off of a form that I got from DaveRamsey.com. If you haven't read his books, he is the one, along with my sister-in-law, that taught me really how to do this. And there are free forms that tell you how to break down your budget and about how much you should be spending in each category, and it'll even help you make a plan for how to pay off your debts or save for anything. And all that's completely free at DaveRamsey.com. They also have a budgeting website, which is free, and it'll track your expenses for you. But once again, it comes back to the thing of, well, it's not elaborate enough for me. I have maybe 12 categories, and I think they only allow for 6 or 7. And once again, it tracks your expenses. It's just not for me. There are 1,000 ways to do it. You can do it paper and pen. Just use something that you'll keep doing is the main thing. So I will be over here trying not to fail and have to live under a bridge. If you have any questions at all for me, I am happy to answer them. Just leave them below in the comments.